I split 20 players between 4 different civilizations in Minecraft to see what civilizations could achieve peace and what civilizations would fall apart and turn to war. So sit back, relax and enjoy, because this video has one hell of a storyline. As the players joined in on day 1, they started by gathering the necessary resources, wood and stone, so they could begin building their civilization and meeting up with other players. Each biome had their own advantages and disadvantages. The desert and the snow had a shortage of food, so both teams had to make sure they had a reliable food source, and they also had to make sure they had a reliable source of wood because there was not many trees in the desert or the snow. Over in the plains, Eric and Lego Dragon met up to begin building the plains civilization, and the plains definitely had a good chance. They had some good players and they also had plenty of trees and plenty of food, so there would be no shortage of wood or food for them. However, over in the snow biome, there were some big problems because there was no food and there was also dangerous strays lurking everywhere. But a player called Dr. Dragclick found out that polar bears gave fish, so he decided to take out some polar bears to get food for the snow civilization. As day 1 progressed, players started hitting the mines looking for iron and diamonds and other useful resources that could help them as the event went forward. Nothing much really happened on day 1. Players just gathered resources and met up with their teammates, and some biomes even started making their base. Towards the end of day 1, something very odd happened, as the Plains team decided to disband and go and join other civilizations. Lego Dragon went on to join the desert, Eric went on to join the snow, and yeah, it was now down to just the desert, jungle and the snow. And as day 1 ended, players logged off, and all the teams are pretty even. There wasn't much diamond gear around. Most players are just in full iron, and then Lego Dragon decided to kill an innocent camel for no reason. But yeah, day 1 came to a close and the players were excited to hop on for day 2. Day 2 began with the Plains players going off and joining some of the other civilizations, like Eric here, who went on to join the snow team. Over in the desert, Swim Scorpion began building his team's underwater base. And yeah, I don't know why they built an underwater base. I think they thought it would be good and hidden from their enemies, but that's a subtle foreshadowing because it was not hidden from their enemies, as you will see later on in the video. Day 2 was mostly just building from all the civilizations, as there would be a supply drop for the team with the best builds. Because, yeah, I want to encourage the players to build, because they need good bases if they're going to win this event. As day 2 progressed, the players from the desert civilization continued building their base and started to organize their storage, but this was still probably not the best base for war. As day 2 was slowly coming to the end, each team began really grinding because day 3 was Doomsday and the borders would drop and players would go to war and the last civilization alive would be the winner. So yeah, the players really locked in and began grinding big time, and each civilization now had a happy gas which they would be taking into war on day 3. At the very end of day 2, I gave each leader of each civilization a custom Netherite chestplate with the armor trim matching the color of their nation. These players with the custom chestplate would be the leaders of their nation and would lead their nation into war on day 3. So, as day 3 began, a alliance also began between the snow and the jungle, who had the plan to take out the desert team as soon as the borders dropped. Desert team began making their final preparations as they prepared for one hell of a war against the jungle and the snow, as they were significantly outnumbered, as the snow and the jungle alliance pretty much doubled the amount of players on the desert civilization, so they were going to need a miracle to overcome this war. And then PvP was enabled and the borders dropped as the snow team prepared to go and rush the desert team to take them out. And yeah, it was a significant outnumber between the two teams as the snow team hopped on their happy ghast and prepared for war. And as the Snow and Jungle Alliance began their rush through the jungle towards the desert civilization, the desert team decided to make their way into the plains biome because they knew that the Snow and Jungle Alliance wouldn't find them there and they would have more time to prepare as they were a little bit undergeared and it was a significant mismatch as it was like an 8v4. The desert team, knowing the huge force that was on their way to their base, decided to flee. Lego Dragon, Brown Alison and King Pixel fled on foot, while Swim Scorpion took the air on his happy ghast. As the Jungle and Snow Alliance went and decimated the desert team's base, Brown Alison, Lego Dragon, Swim Scorpion and King Pixel all had fled to the plains. And as the Jungle and Snow Alliance made their rush back to the center of the map, huge war was about to break out. And then boom, pretty much out of nowhere, the first death took place as Swim Scorpion sniped Sabretooth, who was on his ghast, and Sabretooth fell to the ground and died of full damage. Now, Brown Alison had just found the jungle leader Ameer, and they were about to have a leader v leader showdown as Ameer ran into the jungle. Now, Brown ran after Ameer in pursuit, while Swim Scorpion was up in the air on his ghast and tried to shoot Ameer with wind charges, but came closer to hitting Brown, and then the Jungle and Snow Alliance arrived in their numbers. As the desert civilization were all separated, each desert member had at least a 2v1 or a 3v1 to deal with, while Brown Alison had the whole server on him. And yeah, this was one hell of a fight. Brown Alison stood and fought an 8v1, but then decided to run, and then he tried to take on Monkey Masher and Tabby, trying to kill Tabby to take the other leader chest plate, as Tabby and Brown had a showdown. then out of nowhere, the leader of the desert civilization, Brown Alison, had fallen, and the desert team had fallen into complete chaos. For the next 20 to 30 minutes, Lego Dragon, Swim Scorpion, and King Pixel, the 3 members from the desert civilization, had all been hunted down by the Jungle and Snow Alliance and were fighting for their lives. Swim Scorpion actually nearly took out the jungle leader Ameer, but it wasn't enough and he had to run yet again as the pursuit after the desert members continued. And as the pursuit for the desert members continued for another 10 to 15 minutes, the desert members Lego Dragon and Swim Scorpion decided to make a stand as they were not going to go down as cowards running away. Of a sudden, it was over. Within seconds, Lego Dragon and Swim Scorpion had fallen to the Jungle Snow Alliance, and only King Pixel remained as he had a 7v1 to take on now. And for King Pixel, who only had one piece of diamond armor and was mostly iron, he now had to go up against the 2 leaders of Jungle and the leader of Snow. And yeah, he was going to have to pull off one miracle of a win if he was going to bring glory to the desert civilization. And then all of a sudden, the battle was over. Snow and Jungle had won, they had defeated the desert, but now they had a big decision to make. Do one of the Snow or Jungle betray the other, or do they decide to have world peace between the 2 civilizations? And the Jungle and the Snow decided they would choose world peace. So Tabby, Monkey Masher, Spring 9, Jamel, and Ameer had come out on top in this huge civilization experiment. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. And that concludes the Minecraft civilization experiment.